I'm Heather, 32, and nothing could have prepared me for the sting of my sister Amber's palm against my cheek that day in the bridal boutique. We'd always been close despite our differences, and I'd secretly arranged to pay for her entire wedding, a dream she thought was financially impossible. The slap happened in front of our mother, the boutique staff, and other shoppers. I stood there, my face burning, wondering how the person I loved most could hurt me while having no idea I was sacrificing so much for her happiness. Before I tell you how everything fell apart that day at the bridal boutique, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe to hear how I handled this family drama. Trust me, you'll want to stick around. Growing up, Amber and I shared everything: clothes, toys, secrets, but our personalities couldn't have been more different. 7 years my junior at 25, Amber was always the dreamer, the spontaneous spirit who lit up every room. I was the planner, the protector, the one who thought 10 steps ahead. Our parents did their best with limited resources, and we never went without necessities, but luxuries were rare in our household. Mom worked as a nurse, pulling double shifts whenever she could. Dad ran a small hardware store that barely broke even most months. They emphasized education as our ticket to a better life, and I took that lesson to heart. Amber, though equally bright, was more interested in experiences than academics. "Heather, you're missing the whole point of being young," she'd tell me as I studied while she went to parties. "Life isn't just about getting ahead." Despite our differences, we were fiercely protective of each other. When kids bullied Amber in 4th grade, I, a 6th grader with braces and gangly limbs, confronted them. When I was stood up for prom, Amber spent the night making me laugh until my sides hurt, assuring me the guy was clearly an idiot with no taste. After high school, I chose a state university to save money, working part-time throughout to minimize student loans. I studied business, networking tirelessly, taking unpaid internships that led to connections, sleeping just 4 hours most nights. By contrast, Amber attended an arts college out of state, changing majors twice before settling on graphic design. Our parents remortgaged their home to help with her tuition. Upon graduation, while friends took jobs with established companies, I launched my own marketing consultancy. The first 2 years were brutal. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, ate ramen noodles, and reinvested every penny back into the business. Slowly, my client list grew. By 30, I had 15 employees and had just purchased my first home. Amber's path after college was more circuitous. She traveled for a year, then worked various creative jobs before landing at a boutique design agency. Her talent was undeniable, but her career took a back seat when she met Ryan 3 years ago. Ryan was everything Amber had ever wanted: charming, creative, kind. He worked as a photographer, his portfolio filled with stunning landscapes and intimate portraits. Their first date lasted 12 hours. 3 months later, they moved in together. After 2 years of dating, during a weekend trip to the mountains, Ryan proposed with his grandmother's ring. Amber called me immediately, her voice breathless with excitement. "Heather?" he asked. I said yes. "I'm getting married." I felt a rush of happiness for her, followed by a twinge of something else, not jealousy exactly, but awareness of what I'd sacrificed in pursuit of financial security. At 32, my own love life consisted of occasional dates that rarely led anywhere, as my business consumed most of my time and energy. When they announced their engagement at a family dinner, I watched my parents' reactions carefully. They were genuinely thrilled, but I caught the worried glances they exchanged when Amber began describing her dream wedding, a rustic chic affair at Willowbrook Estate, the region's most exclusive venue. Later that night, as my parents cleared dishes, I overheard Dad whispering to Mom, "How are we going to afford this? The minimum package at that place is $30,000. "We'll figure it out," Mom replied, but her voice was strained. "Maybe we can use some of our retirement savings." That's when I made my decision. I had the means to give Amber her dream wedding without financially burdening our parents. I would keep it a secret, not because I wanted recognition, but because I didn't want to overshadow Amber's moment. This was her wedding, and I wanted her to feel like the star, not a charity case. The first signs of Amber's transformation into a bride obsessed appeared subtly. She'd always been confident, but now she began critiquing everything, her weight, her skin, her hair, with unprecedented harshness. Our weekly sister brunches became wedding planning sessions, with Amber showing up with binders, magazines, and endless Pinterest boards. "I want everything to be perfect," she'd say, scrolling through images of floral arrangements that cost more than our parents' monthly mortgage payment. Ryan, though supportive, seemed overwhelmed by the escalating plans. "Babe, maybe we should consider something smaller," he suggested gently during one family dinner. "My photography business is just getting established, and—" "It's my one special day," Amber interrupted, tears welling in her eyes. "Don't you want me to have what I've always dreamed of?" I noticed something troubling as the weeks passed, Amber's increasing tendency to compare herself to me. "It's so easy for Heather," she complained to our mother when discussing wedding costs. "She has no idea what it's like to budget for something this important." The comment stung, considering how hard I'd worked for my success, but I bit my tongue. If she only knew what I was planning to do for her. The first official planning meeting took place at our parents' home on a Sunday afternoon in April. Amber had created a presentation complete with slideshow, and Ryan sat beside her looking slightly dazed. Mom had prepared a spread of finger sandwiches and lemonade, trying to make the occasion festive despite the obvious tension in the air. "So, I've been researching venues," Amber began, clicking through gorgeous photos of Willowbrook Estate. "They have an opening for September 17th, which gives us 5 months to plan. It's perfect because the gardens will still be in bloom, but we'll get those beautiful early fall colors too." Dad cleared his throat. "Honey, maybe we should discuss budget first, before getting our hearts set on specific places." Amber's smile faltered. "I've put together a detailed budget spreadsheet." She clicked to a new slide showing a total figure that made our father pale visibly. "I know it seems like a lot, but this is actually really reasonable for 75 guests. Sweetheart," Mom began gently, "your father and I have been saving, but we can only contribute about a third of this amount." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "But this is the wedding I've always wanted. Everyone will be there, my college friends, my coworkers, Ryan's photography clients. We can't just have some backyard barbecue." "No one's suggesting that," I interjected smoothly. "There are plenty of beautiful venues that won't break the bank. I've been looking into a few options, just to help out." I pulled out my phone and showed her photos of several locations I'd researched, all places that I knew Amber would love, but that would appear more affordable to her. "This one's nice," she admitted reluctantly, pointing to Willowbrook Estate, exactly as I'd hoped. "But it's probably way out of our price range." "Maybe not," I suggested. "Sometimes these places offer discounts for non-Saturday dates or off-season bookings. Why don't we at least schedule a tour?" "No harm in looking." Behind Amber's back, I exchanged a reassuring glance with our parents. I had already spoken with the venue and placed a deposit, but everyone believed I was just helping with research. The following week, I introduced Amber to Jessica, who I presented as a friend of a colleague who happened to be a wedding planner. In reality, I had carefully researched and hired Jessica specifically for this job, briefing her thoroughly on my plan to secretly fund the wedding. Jessica might be willing to help at a discounted rate, since she's building her portfolio, I told Amber, who embraced the idea enthusiastically. When we toured Willowbrook Estate, Amber was enchanted. The stone manor house, surrounded by manicured gardens and a picturesque pond, was everything she'd dreamed of. The venue coordinator quoted a price that was actually the full amount, but Jessica smoothly interjected. "We might be able to work something out, especially since this is a Friday date rather than a Saturday," she said, giving me a subtle nod. We had previously arranged for me to cover the difference privately. As planning progressed, Amber's stress levels skyrocketed. Each decision became monumental: the exact shade of blush for the bridesmaids' dresses, whether the napkins should be folded in swans or roses, if the signature cocktail should be named after their first date or the location of their engagement. "Everything has to be Instagram perfect," she insisted during a tasting session for the catering. When the chef suggested substituting seasonal vegetables to reduce costs, Amber nearly burst into tears. "But asparagus is my vision," Can't anyone understand that this is my one special day? I noticed her growing resentment toward me as well. When I suggested a reasonably priced florist I'd discovered, and had already arranged to pay, Amber snapped, "Of course you'd think of the practical option. Not everyone is as cold and calculating as you, Heather." The comment hurt more than she knew. Behind the scenes, I was working double hours to ensure I could cover the mounting wedding expenses without impacting my business's cash flow. I'd canceled a vacation and postponed renovations on my home. Our mother tried to mediate. "Amber, your sister is just trying to help. We're all doing our best." "It's easy for her to help," Amber retorted. "She doesn't understand what it's like to be in love, to want one perfect day. When was the last time Heather even went on a date? She's too busy with her precious business to understand what really matters in life." Mom looked at me apologetically, but I simply excused myself to the restroom, where I splashed cold water on my face and reminded myself why I was doing this. Despite her hurtful words, I loved my sister and wanted her happiness. As the weeks passed, I watched our parents growing increasingly worried about finances. Dad started working weekends at the hardware store, and Mom picked up extra nursing shifts. They thought they were contributing a third of the wedding costs, unaware that I was covering the rest. Seeing their exhaustion strengthened my resolve to continue with my plan. The tension reached a breaking point during a family dinner when Ryan innocently mentioned that a photographer friend had offered to shoot their wedding at a discounted rate. "We don't need charity," Amber said sharply. "I want the photographer we chose." Ryan looked taken aback. "Babe, it's not charity. He's incredibly talented, and it would save us several $1,000s. So now you're worried about money too?" Amber pushed her plate away. "I thought you wanted me to have the wedding of my dreams." "I do, but..." "Just forget it." Amber stood up from the table. "Nobody understands." That night, as I drove home, I called Jessica to check on our progress. "Everything's on track," she assured me. "I've secured all the vendors and made the deposits. The only major thing left is the dress." "Great," I replied, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. "We're going dress shopping this weekend. I'll let you know how it goes." The day of dress shopping dawned sunny and warm. I had arranged an appointment at Elegance Bridal, the most exclusive boutique in the city. Normally, they had a 6-month waiting list, but I'd called in a favor from a client whose daughter's wedding I had sponsored through my company's charitable foundation. When we arrived, Amber's eyes widened at the elegant showroom with its crystal chandeliers and plush white seating areas. A smiling consultant named Melanie greeted us with champagne flutes filled with sparkling rose. "Welcome to Elegance," she said warmly. "Today is all about finding your perfect dress, Amber. We've pulled several styles based on the preferences you shared during your phone consultation." Mom looked around nervously, taking in the opulent surroundings. "This place seems very high-end," she whispered to me. "Don't worry," I assured her. "They have dresses in various price ranges." This wasn't entirely true. Elegance was known for carrying designer gowns with price tags starting at several $1,000s, but I had already spoken with the manager about my budget and plan. Amber, oblivious to our whispered conversation, was already following Melanie to a private dressing suite. The consultant had arranged a selection of gowns, each more beautiful than the last. There were romantic ball gowns with tulle skirts, sleek mermaid styles with intricate beading, and bohemian-inspired dresses with flowing sleeves and delicate lace. "Oh my God," Amber breathed, running her fingers over the fabrics. "They're all so beautiful." For the next hour, she tried on dress after dress, emerging from the changing room each time with a different look. Mom and I offered our opinions, though Amber seemed increasingly unsure, finding small flaws with each option. "The neckline isn't quite right. The train isn't long enough. The beading is too flashy." Then she tried on the 7th dress, and we all fell silent. It was a Marchesa creation, a fitted bodice of hand-embroidered lace transitioning to a full skirt with subtle sparkle throughout. When Amber stood on the pedestal before the 3-way mirror, tears filled her eyes. "This is it," she whispered. "This is my dress. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. You look absolutely beautiful, sweetheart. I nodded in agreement, my throat tight with emotion. It's perfect, Amber. The consultant discreetly adjusted the skirt. This is one of our newest arrivals from Marquesa's spring collection. It's an exquisite choice. How much is it? Mom asked, her practical nature asserting itself through her emotional haze. Melanie hesitated. This gown is priced at $12,500. I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath. I had expected the price, in fact, I had already discussed it with the boutique manager, but seeing my mother's distress made me intervene. That's quite an investment, I said carefully. Amber, do you want to try a few more options, just to be sure? Or maybe there are similar styles at a lower price point? Amber's expression changed instantly, her joy evaporating. What are you saying? Don't you think I look beautiful? Of course you do, I said quickly. You look stunning. I just want to make sure it's within budget before you get your heart set on it. Always the practical one, aren't you, Heather? Her tone had turned icy. Always counting dollars and cents. This is my wedding dress we're talking about. I know, but maybe we could look at something similar, Mom suggested gently. Something with the same feel but more within our price range. Amber stepped down from the pedestal, her movements stiff. I can't believe this. The one time in my life I find something perfect, and you two want to cheapen it. That's not what we're saying, I protested, aware of the boutique staff trying to appear busy while obviously listening. We just need to be realistic about what we can afford. Realistic? Amber's voice rose. Like you're the expert on weddings? When was the last time you even had a relationship that lasted more than 3 months? You have no idea what this means to me. Amber, Mom said warningly, that's enough. No, it's not enough, Amber continued, turning to face me fully. You've always had everything so easy, Heather. Your perfect career, your perfect house, your perfect life. The one time something important is happening for me, you can't just be happy. You have to control everything, make me feel small. That's not true, I said, feeling a lump forming in my throat. I'm just trying to help. Help? You call this helping? Amber gestured wildly. Making me feel guilty about wanting a beautiful dress for the most important day of my life? Making comments about the venue, the flowers, everything? You're not helping, you're judging me because my life didn't turn out as perfectly planned as yours. Amber, please, Mom interjected. Your sister has been nothing but supportive. Supportive? Amber laughed bitterly. She's been controlling this entire process because she thinks I'm too irresponsible to plan my own wedding. She probably thinks I'm too irresponsible to even get married. That's ridiculous, I said, my own temper finally flaring. I've been bending over backward to help you have the wedding of your dreams. If you only knew. I stopped myself before revealing my secret, but Amber mistook my hesitation for something else. If I only knew what? How much better you think you are than me? How you think Ryan is too good for me? How you've always thought I was the family disappointment? I have never thought that, I said, my voice breaking. Never. Liar. Amber's face contorted with rage, and before I could react, she slapped me hard across the cheek. The sound echoed in the hushed boutique. My head snapped to the side from the impact, and I felt a stinging heat spread across my face. For a moment everything froze. Amber with her hand still raised, Mom with her mouth open in shock, the boutique staff standing like statues among the racks of white gowns. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional wound. My sister, whom I had protected and loved my entire life, whom I was secretly sacrificing for, had struck me in public, in front of our mother. I raised my hand to my cheek, feeling it throb beneath my fingers. Tears welled in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Amber Marie. Mom's voice finally broke the silence, horror evident in her tone. What on earth has gotten into you? Amber seemed shocked by her own action, staring at her hand as if it belonged to someone else. But instead of apologizing, her face hardened again. I'm tired of being made to feel like I don't deserve nice things. I'm tired of her superiority complex. I couldn't speak. The lump in my throat had grown so large it threatened to choke me. Without a word, I gathered my purse and walked out of the boutique, ignoring my mother's calls to come back. Outside, the bright sunshine seemed mockingly cheerful compared to the storm inside me. I got into my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely insert the key. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught a glimpse of my reddened cheek in the rearview mirror, and the tears I had been holding back finally spilled over. The 20-minute drive home became a blur as tears clouded my vision. I pulled over twice to compose myself, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The physical sting of Amber's slap had faded, but the emotional pain cut deeper with each passing minute. I'd never seen that level of anger in my sister before, that raw contempt directed at me. The worst part was how wrong she was. Every accusation she'd hurled was the opposite of what I felt for her. I didn't think I was better than Amber. If anything, I'd always admired her ability to pursue passion over practicality, to live fully in the moment instead of constantly planning for the future as I did. When I finally reached my house, I collapsed onto my sofa, emotionally drained. My phone had been buzzing consistently, calls from Mom, texts from Amber that I couldn't bring myself to read yet. I silenced the device and closed my eyes, transported back to memories of our childhood. Amber at 6 years old, her front tooth missing, insisting on braiding my hair before my middle school dance. "You have to look extra pretty tonight, Heather," she had said with fierce determination, her small fingers working through tangles. Amber at 12, climbing into my bed after having a nightmare, whispering, "You always make the scary things go away." Amber at 16, the night I left for college, making me a handmade card that read, "Distance means nothing. We'll always be heart-connected." When had things changed? When had I become the enemy in her eyes? I understood wedding stress, I'd seen it with friends, clients, and employees. But this felt deeper, like Amber had been harboring these resentments for years. My phone rang again. "Mom." This time I answered. "Heather?" Her voice sounded strained. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" "I'm fine," I lied, wiping away fresh tears. "What happened today was unacceptable," she continued. "I've never been so shocked in my life. Your sister is. I don't even know what got into her." "How is she?" I asked, despite myself. Mom sighed. "She's upset. After you left, she broke down crying." The boutique staff were very understanding, all things considered. "We're back at her apartment now. Your father is on his way over." "Has she said anything?" I couldn't help wondering if Amber regretted her actions. "She feels terrible about slapping you," Mom admitted. "But she's still angry. She keeps saying that you've never understood what it's like to be the unsuccessful sister, always living in your shadow." The word stung. "That's not fair, Mom. I've worked incredibly hard for everything I have." "I know, sweetie. We all know that. Amber's not thinking clearly right now. This wedding has become an obsession. It's like she's trying to prove something." After ending the call with Mom, I noticed several text messages from Amber had come through. "I shouldn't have slapped you. That was wrong. But you shouldn't have tried to make me feel bad about the dress. You have no idea what pressure I'm under. Everyone expects this wedding to be perfect." Not exactly a heartfelt apology. More like justification with a thin veneer of regret. Then my phone chimed with another message, this one from Jessica, the wedding planner. "Amber just called me in tears about the dress situation. Should I proceed with the purchase as planned, or do you want to reevaluate?" I stared at the message, the reality of my situation hitting me anew. I was still on the hook for thousands of dollars for a wedding dress for someone who had just physically assaulted me. The rational part of my brain, the businesswoman who had built a successful company from scratch, screamed at me to cut my losses. Why spend my hard-earned money on someone who clearly resented me? But the part of me that had always protected Amber, that had watched her take her first steps and helped her navigate her first heartbreak, couldn't let go so easily. I was torn from my thoughts by the doorbell. Through the peephole, I saw my best friend Lauren standing on the porch with a bottle of wine and a concerned expression. "Your mom called me," she explained as I opened the door. "Holy shit, your face. It's actually bruised." I touched my cheek self-consciously. "It's not that bad." Lauren followed me to the kitchen, uncorking the wine and pouring generous glasses for both of us. "Spill it. All of it." For the next hour, I told her everything: the secret plan to fund the wedding, Amber's increasingly entitled behavior, and finally, the slap that had shattered my illusions about our relationship. "And the craziest part," I concluded, "is that I still haven't decided whether to cancel my involvement. Part of me wants to teach her a lesson, but another part can't bear to ruin her day." Lauren studied me over the rim of her wineglass. "You know what I think? I think you should tell her the truth. Tell her you've been funding this whole extravaganza," and she slapped her golden goose right across the face. "That feels vindictive." "It's not vindictive, it's honest. Amber is acting like a spoiled brat because she has no concept of what things actually cost. She thinks mom and dad are somehow magically affording all this, while simultaneously resenting you for your financial success. It's delusional." Lauren's words made sense, but something in me still resisted. If I tell her now, it will change the whole dynamic. She'll either feel obligated to apologize, which isn't a real apology, or she'll feel even more resentful that I've been secretly controlling things. Or, Lauren suggested, she'll realize what an amazing sister she has and snap out of this bridezilla trance. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Amber's face contorted with anger. I replayed our childhood memories, searching for signs I might have missed, moments where she'd revealed this simmering resentment. Had I been oblivious to her feelings all these years? Had my success damaged our relationship beyond repair? By morning, exhaustion had given way to clarity. I needed to make a decision: continue funding the wedding while maintaining my secret, or withdraw my support and let reality set in for Amber and our parents. Either way, something had to change. The next morning, I called Jessica and arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe away from my office. She arrived looking concerned, her wedding planner's clipboard tucked under her arm. "I was worried you'd cancel everything," she said as she slid into the booth opposite me. "Are you okay? Your cheek looks painful." I touched my face self-consciously, feeling the slight swelling. "It's fine. And no, I'm not canceling, at least, not everything." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" Over coffee, I outlined my revised plan. I would continue funding the wedding, but with modifications. The excessive extras Amber had added recently, the designer lighting package, the premium open bar upgrade, the custom dance floor, would be scaled back to the original plans. I would still pay for the venue, catering, photography, flowers, and yes, even the dress, but there needed to be limits. "I love my sister," I explained, "but I can't enable this behavior. This isn't just about money anymore. It's about her attitude and expectations." Jessica nodded, making notes. "I understand. And honestly, those extras weren't adding much value anyway. The core elements are what make a beautiful wedding. I can adjust everything without Amber noticing significant differences." "Thank you," I said gratefully. "And I'm going to be more involved from now on, but differently. Less behind-the-scenes control, more open communication." That evening, Mom called to invite me to a family dinner at their house. "Amber will be there," she said tentatively. "She wants to talk to you." My stomach tightened. "Is Ryan coming too?" "No, just us and Amber." "I think it's better that way for now." I arrived at my parents' house armed with emotional preparation rather than my usual gift of wine or dessert. Dad opened the door, giving me a tight hug. "Jesus, your face," he muttered, examining my cheek where a faint bruise had developed. I never thought I'd see the day one of my girls hit the other. It's nothing, Dad, I said, though we both knew it wasn't true. Inside, Mom was arranging food on the dining table, comfort dishes from our childhood, lasagna, garlic bread, and Caesar salad. Amber sat stiffly in her usual chair, eyes downcast. The atmosphere was thick with tension. "Heather's here," Dad announced unnecessarily as we entered the dining room. Amber glanced up, her eyes widening slightly at the sight of my face before looking away quickly. "Hi," she said quietly. Dinner began in awkward silence, the only sounds being the clink of utensils against plates and occasional requests to pass the salad or bread. Finally, Mom cleared her throat. "We need to talk about what happened yesterday," she said firmly. "As a family." "I already said I was sorry," Amber mumbled, pushing lasagna around her plate. "Actually," I countered, "you texted that you shouldn't have slapped me, then immediately justified why you did it. That's not really an apology." Amber's head snapped up. "Fine. I'm sorry I slapped you, Heather. It was wrong and completely out of line." "Thank you," I said, meeting her gaze steadily. "I accept your apology. But I think we need to discuss why it happened in the first place." "Because you were trying to cheap out on my wedding dress." Amber's voice rose. "The one thing that was perfect, and you tried to ruin it." Dad set down his fork with a clatter. "That's enough, Amber. Your sister and your mother were trying to be realistic about costs. We don't have unlimited funds for this wedding." "Everyone acts like I don't know that," Amber said, tears forming in her eyes. "But this is my one special day. The one time in my life when things should be perfect." "No day is perfect," I said quietly. "And no amount of money can guarantee a perfect wedding or a perfect marriage." "That's easy for you to say," Amber retorted. "You have everything figured out. Your business, your house, your life. I'm trying to have just one thing that feels as successful as your everyday existence." Her words revealed the core issue. This wasn't just about a dress or a wedding. This was about Amber feeling inadequate compared to me. "Do you really think my life is perfect?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Isn't it? You're financially independent, respected in your field. Everyone's so proud of Heather, the self-made success story." "Amber," Mom interjected, "we're equally proud of both of you." "Are you, though? When people ask about your daughters, who do you mention first?" "Heather owns her own marketing agency." "Oh, and Amber does graphic design somewhere." The pain in her voice was unmistakable, and for the first time, I truly understood the depth of her insecurity. "Amber," I said carefully, "success isn't measured by your bank account or your job title. And my life is far from perfect. Yes, my business is doing well, but I work 80-hour weeks. I barely have time for friendships, let alone relationships. When was the last time you saw me bring someone to a family event?" "That's by choice," she countered. "Is it? Or is it because I prioritized financial security over personal happiness?" "You have something I don't, Amber. You have Ryan. You have a partner who loves you for exactly who you are. That's worth more than any business success." Amber fell silent, absorbing my words. Dad reached over to squeeze her hand. "We love you both equally," he said gruffly. "Different doesn't mean one is better than the other." The conversation shifted to more practical matters, the remaining wedding preparations, the adjusted budget, which I knew was largely fictional since I was covering most costs, and the timeline for the next few months. As dinner concluded, I asked Amber if she'd walk me to my car. Once outside in the cool evening air, away from our parents, I turned to face her directly. "I want you to have a beautiful wedding," I said sincerely. "But I need you to understand something. This day, as special as it is just one day in your entire life with Ryan. The marriage is what matters, not the wedding." Amber nodded slowly. "I know. I've lost perspective. It's just, everyone expects so much. My friends, Ryan's family, they're all so sophisticated. I want them to see that I'm successful too. You are successful, in ways that matter more than material things. She looked at me, vulnerability replacing the defensiveness in her eyes. I am sorry about slapping you, Heather. I was out of control. It won't happen again, I promise. I know, I said, giving her a quick hug before getting into my car. On the drive home, I felt a subtle shift had occurred. Not a complete resolution, there were still underlying issues to address, but a step in the right direction. I called Jessica to confirm we would proceed with the wedding plans, including the purchase of the Marchesa dress. Are you sure? Jessica asked. After everything that happened? I'm sure, I replied. But remember our discussion about scaling back the extras. And Jessica? I think it's time we started being more transparent about where the money is coming from. You're going to tell her? Not yet. But soon. Before the wedding. She needs to know. The months following our confrontation passed in a blur of wedding preparations. Amber's attitude improved significantly, though occasional flares of bridezilla behavior emerged during particularly stressful moments. I continued working with Jessica behind the scenes, writing checks for vendors and finalizing details while maintaining the illusion that our parents were covering a larger portion than they actually were. As the wedding date approached, my workload intensified. Not only was I handling my regular clients, but I was also managing the increasingly complex web of wedding finances. The total had surpassed my original budget by nearly $20,000, forcing me to dip into my investment account for the first time. The week before the wedding, I found myself at my office past midnight, reviewing contracts for both work and wedding vendors. My assistant had left takeout on my desk, Chinese food I'd barely touched as I toggled between spreadsheets. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, final payment for florist due tomorrow. $4,750. Also, photographer requesting balance, $3,200. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. These amounts were higher than our original quotes, but Amber had made last-minute upgrades. Again. My phone buzzed once more. Ryan this time, hey, can we meet for coffee tomorrow? Need to talk about something important. This was unusual. While Ryan and I had always gotten along well, we rarely spent time one-on-one. I agreed to meet him at a cafe near my office at 10 a.m. The next morning, Ryan was already waiting when I arrived, 2 coffee cups on the table before him. Thanks for meeting me, he said, pushing a latte toward me. I know you're swamped with work and other things. Something in his tone made me pause. What's going on, Ryan? He looked uncomfortable, fingers fidgeting with his cup. I know, Heather. Know what? About the money. About you paying for everything. I felt the blood drain from my face. How did you find out? I was helping Amber organize wedding documents, and I found an email Jessica accidentally sent to Amber's account instead of yours. It detailed all the payments you've made. He leaned forward. Why, Heather? Why would you do all this in secret? I sighed, relief mixing with resignation. I wanted Amber to have her dream wedding without our parents going into debt. And I didn't want her to feel like a charity case. You know how proud she is. Ryan nodded slowly. Does anyone else know? Just Jessica, and now you. Mom and Dad think they're paying a third of the costs, but in reality, their contribution covers barely a tenth. Amber would be devastated if she knew. He paused. But maybe she should know. I've been thinking the same thing, I admitted. After what happened at the bridal boutique, things are better now, but there are still underlying issues we need to address. She thinks she has to compete with you, Ryan said bluntly. She always has. It's exhausting sometimes, hearing how Heather would handle a situation or what Heather would think. His honesty surprised me. I never wanted her to feel that way. We're different people with different strengths. That's not a bad thing. I know. And I think deep down, she knows it too. He hesitated. I haven't told her about the money. I thought you should be the one to do that. I nodded, appreciating his discretion. I'll find the right moment. Before the wedding, I promise. The opportunity came sooner than expected. That evening was the rehearsal dinner, hosted by Ryan's parents at an upscale restaurant overlooking the city. Ryan's family was wealthy, his father owned a successful construction company, and his mother came from old money, a fact that had always made Amber somewhat insecure. The dinner began pleasantly enough, with touching speeches from both sets of parents. Then Ryan's uncle Marcus, 3 martinis in, raised his glass in an impromptu toast. To Ryan, finally marrying up in the world with this beautiful, talented bride, he announced with a wink. And to Amber, landing yourself a Berkman. Not a bad investment strategy. A few uncomfortable chuckles rippled through the room. Amber's smile remained fixed, but I saw the hurt flash in her eyes. Later, as guests mingled during dessert, I overheard Ryan's mother speaking to a relative. The wedding is going to be absolutely stunning. I was worried it might be, well, you know, given Amber's family's means. But everything is first class. I gritted my teeth, resisting the urge to interject. This was exactly the kind of judgment Amber had always feared from Ryan's social circle. As the evening wound down, I found Amber alone on the restaurant's terrace, staring out at the city lights. "Penny for your thoughts?" I asked, joining her at the railing. "Just thinking about how different our lives turned out," she replied, her voice slightly slurred from wine. "You with your empire, me marrying into the Burke dynasty. That's not a fair comparison. Isn't it?" Marcus made it pretty clear. "I'm the charity case Ryan decided to rescue." "That's ridiculous, and you know it. Ryan loves you for who you are." She turned to me, her expression hardening. "Easy for you to say. You've never had to worry about measuring up to someone else's standards. You've never had to wonder if you're good enough." "That's not true, Amber. Everyone has insecurities, including me." "Please," she scoffed. "What do you have to be insecure about? Your multiple properties? Your 6-figure income? Your perfect life? My empty house?" I countered, frustration finally breaking through. "My non-existent love life? The fact that I work so much I barely have time for friends? You see what you want to see, Amber. You always have. At least you have choices. I'm just the disappointing sister who couldn't make it on her own. Good thing I found Ryan to take care of me, right?" Before I could respond, Jessica appeared at the terrace door, tablet in hand. "Amber, I need your approval on the final seating chart adjustments." And Heather, the band coordinator, called about tomorrow's timeline. Amber frowned. "Why would the band coordinator call you?" Jessica froze, realizing her mistake. She looked at me, panic flashing across her face. "I've been helping coordinate some details," I said quickly. "But why would they call you directly?" Amber pressed, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Jessica began backing toward the door. "I should check on those table arrangements." "Jessica," Amber called, her voice sharp. "What's going on? Why would the band call Heather?" The wedding planner glanced between us, visibly uncomfortable. There's been some confusion with vendor contacts." "Bullshit," Amber stated flatly. "Tell me the truth. Now." I saw the inevitable unfolding and decided to take control of the situation. "It's okay, Jessica. I'll handle this." When the planner had retreated, I turned back to my sister. "Let's sit down." "Just tell me what's going on," Amber demanded, remaining standing. I took a deep breath. "I've been paying for your wedding, Amber. Most of it, anyway." Her face went blank with shock. "What?" "The venue, the catering, the dress, the flowers, all of it. I arranged it months ago, when you first got engaged." "But Mom and Dad, they said they were contributing." "They are. About 10%. They think they're paying a third, but I've been covering the difference secretly." Amber sank onto a nearby chair, her face pale in the dim terrace lighting. "The whole time?" Even when I slapped you at the boutique? I nodded. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you tell me? I wanted you to have your dream wedding without worrying about money. And I didn't want you to feel like you were accepting charity. So instead you lied to me? Manipulated everything behind my back? Her voice rose slightly. I was trying to help, Amber. I know how much this wedding means to you, and I had the means to make it happen. She was quiet for a long moment, processing this revelation. So the Marquesa dress is paid for. It's yours. And Willowbrook estate. Deposit and final payment handled. Amber covered her face with her hands. When she looked up, tears were streaming down her cheeks. I've been horrible to you. Absolutely horrible. And all this time, you were. Her shoulders began to shake with sobs. Instinctively, I moved to her side, putting an arm around her. I'm so sorry, she choked out between sobs. I slapped you. I said such awful things. And you were spending tens of thousands of dollars on my wedding. It's okay, I said softly, though we both knew it wasn't entirely okay. No, it's not. She pulled away to look at me. I've been so jealous of you for so long, Heather. Your success, your independence, I convinced myself you had it easy, that everything was handed to you. But that's not true. You worked for everything you have, and instead of being proud of you, I resented you. Her honesty cracked something open inside me. I've been jealous of you too, Amber. Me? She looked genuinely shocked. Why would you possibly be jealous of me? Because you allow yourself to be vulnerable. You take risks with your heart. You found Ryan, you built a life based on more than just work and achievement. Do you know how lonely success can be sometimes? We sat in silence for a moment, years of misunderstandings and unspoken feelings hanging in the air between us. We're really messed up, aren't we? Amber finally said with a watery laugh. Just a little, I agreed, smiling through my own tears. She took my hand, squeezing it tightly. I don't deserve what you've done for me. That's not true. You deserve everything good, Amber. You always have. Can we start over? She asked. Not just pretend this never happened, but really start over? Be honest with each other, support each other without resentment or competition? I'd like that, I said. She hugged me then, holding on tightly as if afraid I might disappear. Over her shoulder, I noticed Ryan watching us from the doorway, a relieved smile on his face. Later that night, as I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in months. The secret was out, and while there would be more conversations and adjustments ahead, the worst was behind us. For the first time since this wedding journey began, I felt genuine excitement for the celebration to come. September 17th arrived with perfect weather, sunshine filtering through scattered clouds, temperatures in the low 70s, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of late summer flowers. Willowbrook Estate looked like something from a fairy tale, with white chairs arranged in neat rows on the lawn, facing an arch woven with roses and greenery. I arrived early to help Jessica with final preparations, though there was little left to do. The months of planning had paid off, with every detail perfectly in place. Nervous? Jessica asked as we walked the grounds one last time. Oddly, no, I replied truthfully. For the first time, I'm just excited. After our rehearsal dinner revelation, Amber and I had spent hours talking, really talking, in a way we hadn't since childhood. We'd cried, laughed, and finally understood each other's perspectives. The wedding was no longer a source of tension but a celebration we were creating together. In the bridal suite, I found Amber sitting at the vanity while a makeup artist applied the finishing touches. She looked radiant in a silk robe, her hair already styled in loose waves with small flowers woven throughout. Heather, she exclaimed, dismissing the makeup artist with a smile. I was just about to send someone to find you. I handed her a small blue box. Something borrowed, as promised. Inside were our grandmother's pearl earrings, which Mom had given me on my 30th birthday. Amber's eyes welled with tears. Don't you dare cry and ruin that makeup, I warned with a laugh. It's waterproof for a reason, she replied, carefully putting on the earrings. How do they look? Perfect, I said honestly. As I helped her into the Marchesa gown, I was transported back to our childhood, me, the protective older sister, helping Amber prepare for school performances and first dates. But today felt different. Today, we were equals. Remember when I used to dress you up in mom's clothes for our pretend fashion shows? I asked, fastening the delicate buttons along her spine. And you'd announce me as I walked down the hallway, Amber recalled with a laugh. Now presenting the elegant Lady Amber, in a couture gown by House of Mom's closet. You always had the better runway walk. And you always had the better organizational skills. She turned to face me, her expression growing serious. Thank you, Heather. Not just for the wedding, but for always taking care of me, even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it, I assured her, adjusting her veil. That's what sisters do. The ceremony was everything Amber had dreamed of, romantic, personal, and deeply moving. When Ryan saw her walking down the aisle on our father's arm, his face crumpled with emotion. Their vows, which they had written themselves, spoke of growth, partnership, and unwavering support through life's challenges. During the reception, Amber surprised me by clinking her glass to make an unscheduled toast. The guests quieted as she stood, radiant in her beautiful gown. I want to thank everyone for being here today, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. Especially my parents, who have always supported my dreams. And Ryan's family, for welcoming me so warmly. She paused, looking directly at me. But there's someone else I need to thank publicly. My sister, Heather. Many of you know her as my maid of honor, but what you don't know is that she's the reason this day is possible at all. A ripple of curiosity passed through the guests. Heather has always protected me, guided me, and loved me unconditionally. When I was at my worst, and believe me, Bridezilla doesn't begin to cover it, she showed me what true generosity looks like. This wedding, this perfect day that Ryan and I will remember forever, is as much her gift as it is our commitment. She raised her glass higher. To my sister, my best friend, my hero. I love you, Heather. The room erupted in applause as tears streamed down my face. I hadn't expected this public acknowledgement, hadn't wanted or needed it, but the gesture moved me beyond words. Later, as the dancing was in full swing, Ryan pulled me aside for a moment of quiet conversation. I knew about the money before Amber did, he admitted. I found out about 3 weeks before the rehearsal dinner. I know, I replied. You told me at the cafe, remember? He shook his head. No, I mean I knew much earlier than that. I discovered one of the vendor contracts in Jessica's files when I was helping organize wedding paperwork. Your name was on everything as the responsible party. Why didn't you say anything? At first, I was going to. Then I realized how much it would hurt Amber's pride. And honestly, I was torn between feeling grateful and feeling like I'd failed her somehow. He looked across the room at his new wife, who was dancing with our father. A man is supposed to provide, you know? Traditional or not, that's how I was raised. You provide for her in countless ways, Ryan. Financial support is just one small aspect of a partnership. That's what I realized eventually. He turned back to me with a serious expression. We're going to pay you back, Heather. Every penny. It might take us years, but we will. That's not necessary, I began, but he held up a hand. It is necessary. For our self-respect, and for our marriage to start on honest footing. We've already discussed it. Monthly payments, no interest, but we're doing this. I recognized the determination in his eyes, the same look Amber got when her mind was made up, and nodded. Okay. But no rush. And consider at least half of it a wedding gift. Thank you, he said simply, then added with a grin, sis. As the evening progressed, I found myself enjoying the celebration more than I'd anticipated. I danced with my father, with Ryan, with friends I hadn't seen in years. For once, I wasn't checking my phone for work emails or mentally calculating costs. I was simply present, savoring the joy around me. Near midnight, as the party was winding down, Amber found me sitting at a table, watching the few remaining dancers. "Best day ever," she declared, collapsing into the chair beside me and kicking off her heels. "My feet are killing me, but I don't even care." "Everything turned out beautifully," I agreed. "Not everything," she said, suddenly serious. "I still can't believe how I treated you. The things I said, the slap. I'm going to spend a long time making that up to you." "It's already forgiven, Amber." "Truly." "Maybe, but it's not forgotten. By either of us." She took my hand. "I've learned something important through all this. Love isn't just about grand gestures or perfect days. It's about showing up for each other, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." "That's very wise, Mrs. Burke," I teased gently. "I had a good teacher," she replied, squeezing my hand. "Now, about that trip to the Maldives you keep postponing for work. What about it? You need to take it. Soon. With someone fun. Maybe that new client who keeps finding reasons to schedule in-person meetings." I felt my cheeks warm. "How do you know about him?" "Ryan might have mentioned something." She grinned mischievously. "Life's too short to be all work and no play, sis. That's lesson number 2 I've learned from this whole experience." 2 months after the wedding, Amber and Ryan invited me to dinner at their apartment. They proudly showed me a framed picture from the wedding, not one of them, but one of me and Amber, heads together, laughing about something private during the reception. "It's to remind us," Amber explained, "of what really matters. Not the perfect venue or the designer dress, but the people who love us enough to forgive our worst moments and celebrate our best." On their refrigerator was a payment schedule, with the first installment already marked off. I'd tried to refuse the check when it arrived, but Ryan had insisted, and I'd recognized that this was important for them. As we sat down to dinner, a home-cooked meal prepared by both of them together, I marveled at the change in my sister. Marriage hadn't transformed her overnight, but the experience leading up to it had sparked growth I hadn't expected. She was still creative, still passionate, but there was a new thoughtfulness to her, a consideration that extended beyond her immediate desires. "I have news," I announced as we finished dessert. "I've hired a CEO to run day-to-day operations at the company. Starting next month, I'm stepping back to an advisory role." "What?" Amber nearly dropped her fork. "But your business is everything to you." "Not everything," I corrected her. "I've realized there's more to life than spreadsheets and client meetings. I want time for relationships, for family, for myself. This wouldn't happen to have anything to do with a certain architect you've been seeing, would it?" Ryan teased. I felt myself blush. "Maybe partly. But mostly it's about balance. Something I should have learned a long time ago." As I drove home that night, I reflected on the journey of the past year. What had begun as a simple desire to give my sister a beautiful wedding had evolved into something far more meaningful, a healing of old wounds, a restoration of our relationship, and an unexpected path to my own personal growth. The truth was, in trying to give Amber her perfect day, I had received an invaluable gift in return, the realization that success wasn't measured in dollars or achievements, but in connections, in vulnerability, in the courage to prioritize love over pride. Life rarely turns out exactly as we plan. Sometimes, it's the unexpected detours, even the painful ones, that lead us to our most important destinations. My sister's slap had stung, but it had also awakened me to truths I'd been avoiding about my own life. And for that, paradoxically, I was grateful. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from our most difficult moments. Have you ever had a painful experience that ultimately led to growth and understanding? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons learned. Share this with someone who might need a reminder about the complexity and beauty of family relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey. and remember, even in our worst moments, love and forgiveness can lead to our greatest transformations.